At a Canada Day event last year, I finally confronted then Chief Executive C.Y. Leung about the ban on digital media at Hong Kong press events. For years, the government had barred Hong Kong Free Press and other digital media from asking questions of officials, simply because we didn't print on dead trees. He said it was a question for the next administration. I'd like to say I then launched into an eloquent defense of press freedom in the last bastion of freedom of expression that is Hong Kong, but I think I mumbled something, asked for a selfie, and ran off. But why is digital media access so important to us as Hong Kong Free Press, and why would it matter to anyone else? As you can see, in 2002, in the Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index, Hong Kong stood at 18th in the world. Now we're at 70th, as China tightens its grip on the city. Why? We've seen physical attacks and threats against journalists, most notably with the missing booksellers case, and an attack on the ex-Ming Pao editor, Kevin Lau. Outspoken columnists have found their contracts not renewed or have been sacked. There have been boycotts against pro-democracy media, such as Apple Daily, as they withdraw their ads. And we've seen the rise of self-censorship in newsrooms, whereby consciously or unconsciously, journalists are being less critical as not to cause upset on topics such as Taiwan or the Tiananmen massacre. And thanks to a certain US leader, a fellow ginger, authoritarian leaders around the world have been attacking the media. And readers, we are stuck in our own social media walled gardens where facts often struggle to make it through. This is what the media landscape currently looks like in Hong Kong. As you can see, a lot of different titles, but very little diversity, especially with the traditional media. Many of them are owned outright by the Communist Party or owned by business people with business interests in the mainland. Through selection and omission, through editorials and framing, very often they echo the government's point of view rather than being a critical watchdog. Most of them have a pro-Beijing stance, and yet there is no top-down censorship in Hong Kong. The situation 4 years ago was a lot worse, so I decided to do something about it. I enrolled on a journalism master's and cut my teeth reporting on the umbrella movement in 2014, and then set to set something up which was immune to the press freedom concerns facing the city. A few years ago, I'd have had to have just gone and worked for a new big media outlet. But now, the tools to set something up were accessible to all. With 1,000 Hong Kong dollars and support from friends, we had a website. Then we turned to crowdfunding, seeking $150,000 from Hong Kongers and scarily accidentally raising $600,000, becoming the biggest, fastest funded media outlet to do so, and the first to do crowdfunding. Clearly, we'd underestimated how others felt the same, and a new reader-backed, digital-led media landscape was emerging from the tear gas of the Occupy movement. After us, FactWire raised $5 million from Hong Kongers, an investigative bilingual news team run by journalists, backed by readers, and no shareholders just like us. Then came Citizen News. They raised $3 million from Hong Kongers, also emerging from the Occupy movement amid an upheaval at print outlets, also structured similarly to us. And then a few months ago, we raised $850,000. 850 people donated an average of $1,000 each, meaning we're answerable to all of them and none of them, so that we are completely independent, answerable only to ourselves. This is a grassroots community reaction to an industry under fire locally, regionally, and internationally. But these people are not just donors. Designers, teachers, developers, veteran media workers volunteered their time to help us set up. A digital radio got in touch from Cyberport, and they offered us free rent for years, never asking for anything in return. They didn't even know me. We've had lottery winners send tickets through the post. We've had 2 authors donate all of their book proceeds to Hong Kong Free Press. One of them was selling them for $200 and giving us $200 per book. And I told him that doesn't work. But he was donating all of the proceeds to us. For those skeptical about our intentions in the early days, we invited them to the office. One of them ended up giving us new computers, laptops, and buying ads. And I've had people thrust cash at me in the street and at festivals, which is an alarming sort of reverse mugging. And we've even had columnists, when we've tried to pay them, donate it back to us. So these ground-up models have spread across the region as other journalists rise up to resist pressure. Rappler in the Philippines, founded in 2012, is resisting pressure from President Duterte to shut it down as the most independent outlet in the country. In Malaysia, Malaysia Kini and Sarawak Report have uncovered government corruption, eventually bringing down the government recently. They have been under fire with anti-fake news laws and survived. New Narrative, an online citizen in Singapore, also facing censorship and government legal action. Hong Kong Free Press wouldn't have even been possible, say, 10 years ago. But for young teams of journalists dissatisfied with what's on offer, the tools to set something up new have been democratized. Most of the gear you need is already in your pocket, and much of the software is free to access. And we think if you are accountable to readers, if you're transparent about your funding, you can build a community to help you share the costs. So we saw this groundswell of support, yet the government still told us that we are not real media. We were turned away whenever we went to any government events. This is despite the fact that we had an office, fully qualified paid journalists, we were a registered non-profit company, had press passes. I had better access when I was a student even. So we linked with other local digital media, with international journalism watchdogs, local journalism groups, to try and force through change. This is one of our reporters being condemned to the public area, trying to get into a press pit during an election. But the government repeatedly told us they don't have the space to accommodate us. They said there would be security issues. They said that they didn't know how to differentiate between online and offline media, though the rest of the world managed it. In reality, I think it's because, online media were probably more free and therefore probably more critical. And then finally, last September, Carrie Lam, that's not her, pressed it too soon. Carrie Lam finally let us in, and none of those predictions came through. This is Tony Benn. This is my favorite politician, the late Tony Benn. And he said that we should ask of the powerful a series of questions. What power do you have? Where do you get it from? In whose interest do you exercise it? And to whom are you accountable? We fought for and won the right to ask these questions of the powerful, on behalf of the public, to keep the public informed. Except the fifth question he said we must ask the powerful in a democracy is, how do we get rid of you? And unfortunately, for many in our corner of the world, the answer is we can't. And it's because of that lack of democracy that the check on power that the media is even more important when people don't have that voice at the ballot box. We need to support independent media. We need to support media diversity. And for those young journalists who are unhappy with what's on offer, we are proof that with the timing and grassroots support, you can build your own. Thank you.